Hi, good morning. So for today, to be honest, the main update that we have is we decided to essentially to go through the changes for the CRI API and essentially split the pull request so that this can be reviewed by Signal. And Tim and Peter had some feedback on the implementation changes. And the other thing was Tim suggested to essentially have a one single pull request that contains essentially all the API changes, and then reach out to essentially the reviewers for the API to review them. I think this is pretty much everything from like what we have so far. The code freeze is also very soon. But yeah, that's kind of what we have so far. We
What is soon?
Yes.
What soon? Sorry, I missed the last sentence.
There is a code freeze deadline for
Code
the
freeze.
code.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess we have another meeting tomorrow where I will try to discuss the changes with Peter and Tim. Um,
Radiston, with respect to the API changes, are we making any changes to the kubelet for it, or how are we planning to do this?
yeah. So I mean, the way it works is we have to modify first the CRI API in Kubernetes, so that essentially we first have to introduce these changes. And then this will allow us to go and modify the container runtime. So it's kind of chicken and egg problem. We have to
Yeah.
modify Kubernetes, but before we modify Kubernetes, we have to also introduce changes in container D and Cryo. So
Mhm.
essentially, what we want to do is we want to introduce the minimal amount of changes in Kubernetes so that we can start the development in Cryo and container D. And then once we have the pod level checkpoint restore support in both container runtimes, we can introduce essentially everything needed in Kubernetes. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. And with respect to PRs, do you foresee any PRs that you might still need?
So we currently have two pull requests. One is for the CRI APIs, and the other one contains essentially all the changes that we have so far. But yeah, it depends on the feedback we receive. So I guess that's the starting point. We just want to get approvals for the Sierra API changes so that we can essentially update this API in the current release, and then in the next release we can probably introduce more changes.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Um, and then we also modified Creo to support compression. I'm not sure if Dan, if you had time to see the
Oh
changes.
yeah, we've already run some benchmarks for it. It reduces the sizes considerably.
Yeah, it depends on the workload. So essentially, we have a few optimizations that, for example, if you have memory pages that are empty, that are zero, we don't save any data in the checkpoint. We just mark these pages as empty. Then, if you have essentially pages that don't compress very well, like random data, then we essentially
Don't
up.
bother. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're still benchmarking it, and maybe we'll toggle it only for specific kinds of workloads. But it really reduces the considerable sizes, like
Yeah.
by tens of percents.
The other thing is there is also decompression threads option. I'm not sure if you've seen this. This will essentially parallelize the restore.
Decompression, like for to you can compress like page by page and then decompress with async D, right?
Yeah, essentially it creates multiple threads. It has like a pool of threads that essentially perform the decompression, because we can do this in parallel. And yeah, you can run experiments with different number of threads, or if you specify the number 0, then it will just use the number of CPUs or the maximum number of workers that it needs. It's kind of all described in the man page, but yeah, that's the best documentation we have so far.
This is
Lovely.
on the fly
Thanks.
compression that we are talking about, right? The on the fly compression. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, with respect to grid, on the issue that we closed, right? So we have only solved it for inetSK file descriptor. We might also have to do it for a couple of the other ones as well. So you might want to tackle that in the same issue, or I just left a comment over there, so you can check that.
Yeah. I actually have. I'll just share my screen to show you. Then I was referring to this option. So this is the CrewMan page. So this decompressed threads essentially is what parallelize the decompression option. And essentially the number 0 is essentially automating, instead of specifying, for example, the number of CPUs, you can do that. And then essentially this compressed region is, instead of compressing every memory page one by one, you can specify like larger, essentially a larger region, larger block that is being compressed. So this is kind of the optimizations that we have. And then acceleration is more like optimizing the compression algorithm itself. So it makes it faster rather than improving the compression ratio. But yeah, that's and I also have some patches to the GoCrew project to essentially add these compression options in there as well.
Okay. Can you share those with me if it's
Yeah.
available? Yeah, perfect.
I was doing some testing yesterday, but I haven't opened pull request yet.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. I think I'll also join tomorrow's call with Peter, because I'm sure he has some comments on the PR, so we can check that as well.
Yeah, he actually sent me a message yesterday, but yeah, I haven't had time to essentially address all the comments that he had in team also.
Sounds good.
And yeah, I think this is pretty much everything.
Okay.
I guess then one thing that I was running into was in Dynamo.
Sorry.
One problem that I was running into when we create a snapshot in Dynamo, I think there was the way the container diff, the root file system diff is being saved. It's like if the container doesn't have any changes, it will not create this rootfs diff tar file, I think. And then the problem was that during restore, if the file doesn't, if this rootfs file doesn't exist, it would fail.
It fails the restore.
Yeah. So essentially during checkpoint, if there are no changes, it's not going to create the file. But if the file is missing, this is one of the problems I was running into. I think I have a patch that fixes this, but yeah.
You can go ahead and open a pull request or send me or anything, and I'll go over it immediately.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
What do you have anything else that you want?
No. I actually am waiting for the tomorrow's call. So let's discuss about the CRI, because I want to be, in alignment with everybody, that for 1.37 we are able to actually push the changes and not, stall upon it. So, but yeah.
Cool. done. The other thing is the pull request that refactors the CUDA plugin for Creo. So this is actually something that Stephen suggested like long time ago. I think in January, February, we had a meeting, and he said that we should be using the libcuda directly instead of the CUDA checkpoint tool. And I was running some experiments before KubeCon, and essentially the main benefit is that you don't have to parse the the output of the CUDA checkpoint tool. You don't have to invoke the tool, but you can just call a function. But I also saw that there is something similar in Dynamo. It's called CUDA checkpoint helper, I think. But essentially, it's very similar to what the CUDA checkpoint tool does. And in general, do you have any advice on, for example, how do we introduce this in Creo or?
And the CUDA checkpoint helper?
Yeah, it's more like if we refactor the CUDA plugin for Creo to directly use libcuda, whether this is something.
Yeah, I saw, but what is your question specifically? How to introduce what into Creo? Sorry.
Yeah, if you have any advice whether this will be okay from your side, like for example, if we don't use the CUDA checkpoint tool, but use the libcuda library directly with the open.
Our code currently uses CUDA checkpoint because of a specific issue that I don't currently recall that was with the CUDA plugin in our specific use case. And instead of doing the right thing and fixing the plugin itself, we switched to CUDA checkpoint, but we will need to switch to the plugin itself eventually because and upstream anything that may have fixed it into the plugin itself. It would be the right thing to do instead of using CUDA checkpoint directly. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
There is no issue with doing, as far as I know, with the PR that changes it to dynamic linking.
Yeah. I think what Andre suggested to us to sort of create a new version of the CUDA plugin so that we have I guess we still have the old plugin if someone wants to use the CUDA checkpoint tool. But yeah,
I saw that. Wouldn't it be like, so there would be at one point in time two CUDA plugins?
I'm not sure. So the problem is we currently don't have a way of doing versioning support for plugins, so I have to figure out how to do that. But yeah, I think
maybe an external, maybe a part of the API between the Creo and the plugins will include like an external version for the plugin, but then again, it won't affect any other old plugins that don't externalize that. So we're back to the start.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
I was also wondering how does Dynamo uses the Go Creo API? Like, for example, when we do updates.
We use instead of launching Creo via the CLI, we just use Go Creo to launch like Creo as a service worker, and then use RPC to connect to it. So we are tightly coupled to any changes in the API. We need them like upstreamed into the Go Creo every time there's a change to the API. So that's why, that's how we use it, and that's why we're so tightly coupled to it.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, from our perspective, we just maintain the Go Creo bindings, and yeah, they have been used in, for example, Runc, Containerd, Podman, I think, and yeah. It's just me and Adrian usually, and also Prajal. He was Google Summer Code student. That is maintaining the bindings. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe a good maybe like upon maybe there's a way to trigger like automatically like when there's a change to the API in Creo to bump a change into Go crew. If the proto buff is changed, maybe just create an automatic pull request into Go crew so that it'll automatically create a release or something.
Yeah, to be honest, we don't have that many changes to the.
Oh, I see.
But the other thing is we so the crew dev branch is sort of development branch. So sometimes after release we rebase this branch, so we can, for example, drop patches from this branch. We can essentially rebase it on master. So the crew dev branch can change. What I mean is like I remember in the past we had like new functionalities in Creo that weren't very well tested, but we decided to merge them in the Creo dev branch just in case if someone wants to work on them. And then after after about a few years, and nobody has essentially contributed to these changes, and nobody has tested them, and they just decided to drop them. I essentially moved them to a different branch and then dropped the patches from the Creo dev branch. This was logging functionality, for example. So we had something called fwog in Creo. So instead of writing to a text file, the logs can be saved as binary, and then this is much faster because we don't have the overhead of essentially formatting the strings. So we would save, for example, the arguments that will be passed to printf, for example, but the actual essentially formatting of the logs will be done later with a different tool. But yeah, essentially this is still somewhere in the branch in Creo, but because nobody was using it, it wasn't merged into the master branch.
Should we bring that up again? I mean, this sounds like something that's interesting, and we should. I know we dropped it already once, but if we can, we should bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's mainly because it's mostly like volunteers. It's if someone needs something, they would step in and implement it. But if nobody does, yeah. But yeah, Andre was asking to do that a few years ago. Like, yeah, we can try to create a project that optimizes this. The like logging is actually significant. I'm not sure, Dan, if you have experienced this, but for example, when checkpoint large models, the log file can become very large, like 400 megabytes. So if you try to open it with Vim, for me at least, Vim crashes and it's not able to open the log file. And this mainly because we print information about every memory page that Creo saves and restores. So yeah, this is something that we can optimize in the future.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you both for joining the meeting, and I guess
Thanks, folks.
see you.
See you.
Bye for now.